points on AP exam. Why is 3 points? Because FRQ is going to ask you the same question. MCQ is going to ask you the same question. But you're going to find out there's a lot of repeated questions. You want to get those repeated questions always correct. You want to get biggest bang of the bucks. That's the way to look at it. Those questions frequent show up. Make sure you get it right. Like SAT, you must understand your slopes, percentages. Those are always showing up. You're not going to get around those questions. You see this low bound to high. This is not low to high, so I'm going to change it to low to high. And I'm going to put a negative sign in front. So now I just need to figure out the area here. So this is a 1, 2, 3. And this is a 3 times 2 times 1/2, which is equal to 3. So that's equal to -6. And that's what is equal to -6. Yes?
Can you also do area of a trapezoid?
You can if you want. I like counting rectangles, that's just me. But you can do whatever you want. As long as you get the right answer, it's fine. Everybody understand? Liam, do you understand? Okay, what is G of 5? Well, I'm going to figure out G of 0. 0, 0 just becomes 0 to 0. That's equal to 0. That's equal to -6. G of 1 is going to be 1.5. So 1.5. And this one's going to give you another 1. And this is half. This is half. So it'll be 2. And this is 7/2. I figure out answer really quickly. But the only thing here is negative. So this and this cancel out. So their answer is going to be 3/2 again. So that's going to be all the answer. So you can figure out what the maximum value is. This is a great question to understand. If you understand this question, you're going to be better than a lot other students. And you don't need the arithmetic skill. You just be able to count boxes. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this question. I'm going to spend so much time on this questions that where you are not going to get it wrong ever again. So I'm going to spend a lot of effort on this question. So most of you guys going to tell me the answer is C. How many of you guys told me answer is C? Raise your hand. Okay, so you got a right answer. So what? That doesn't mean anything for me. I want you to know is why does the answer are right and why is the answer are wrong, and how do I make a correct answer out of wrong choices. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through details. First, do you guys know what is limits as x approach to a of f of x minus f of a over x minus a is equal to? F prime of a. Not f prime of x, it's f prime of a. So this is also known as a definition of alternating derivative, which is a derivative at a point A. Very, very important, a specific point. Now, what's the other one? The other one's limits as h approach 0 of x plus h minus f of x over h is equal to f prime of x. Now, this is a derivative at all points. So that's equal to derivative at all points. So at any points, right? So those two things you need to understand. Now, what else you need to understand? This is implying this is f prime of a, right? Equal to 0. So automatically the answer is C. But why the other answer is wrong? So we're going to talk about this one. We're going to spend a lot of time talk about this one. Rylan, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to pick up Brendan's phone and throw it out the window. He's so excited.
You were throw it.
Can I just drop it?
Just drop it.
Not throw it.
Throw it.
It's gonna be overheat today, so
What?
it's gonna hot.
Oh, that's 90 degrees.
What? If you want to be on your phone, join Brendan's phone.
Can I throw it out?
Yeah, you can. Misha, you can throw it out. You can throw it out. Um, so shh. So why is this important? Because the bottom layer of this triangle is something that it's usually not tested, but it's tested in the term of graphing. So this means limits exist. And limit exists, it just means limits x approach to a from the left equal to limit x approach to a from the right of f of x. So left equal to right. What does that mean? That means if I have a graph like this, does limit exist here? Does limit exist here? Who says no? It actually exists. Because limit x approaching a from the left is equal to 1. Limit x approaching to a from the right is equal to 1. So limit does exist at this particular point. Limit does exist on following situation. So let's just say a like this, a solid dot, right? But an open circle with that, usually people get this one wrong. Usually people get this one wrong. They doubt limit does not. Now this one just means limit exists, but does not equal to f of a, right? It does not equal to f of a. Limit exists, but does not equal to f of a. So that's what we're going to talk about. That's not continuous. So the next layer is to understand what is the next layer. The first thing is continuous. And this limit exists. And continuous, what's the first things that is continuous? What's the first condition to be continuous? What?
No hole.
What? No holes? Yeah, what? It is no hole, but it's actually more better. It need to be said FA is defined. So that means it has to be not only no hole, it has to be a solid dot at A. Any questions? Second reason. It says limits as x approach to A of x, f of x must exist. But that doesn't mean continuous because I can have this situation here. Is this continuous? No, you don't want a roller coaster with a hole in the middle. I mean, C. The C is what? What is C? C is what? What's the third condition to be continuous? You need to require all three conditions. Limit x approach to A. Who says that? Good job, Aspen. Of f of x equal to f of a. So what does this mean? That means this here has to be this way, that the solid dot had to fill in the hole in order to be continuous. So that third condition is needed in order to be continuous. Next one, it says limits as x approach to a from the left side of f prime of x equal to limits as x approach to a from the right side of f prime of x. This is called differentiable. Now, the nice thing about differentiable is that once if you know it's differentiable, it has to be continuous and limit has to exist, because you cannot have top part of pyramid and without a bottom part. Even though that'd be pretty cool, but that's not gonna happen. You're gonna go to Egypt, you say, oh, I only see the tips of I didn't see the bottom part of a pyramid.
Only see the bottom.
I'm gonna just block it off. Does that make sense? That you must have this. Now, here's the thing. How many of you guys really understand how to make E correct? So it nearly is falling asleep. How do I make it condition E correct? Yeah, because you are sleeping. How do I make a statement E correct? I know it's false. I know the answer is C, but how do I make it E correct? Yeah, because you were sleeping. Armin? What?
If the equation was the same, but limit x approaches zero.
Yeah, but I'm saying, how do I make a statement E correct? Not how do I change the question to make a statement correct? So there's a difference. Yeah, you're not entirely wrong, but Caden?
Would it be f(x) is continuous at equal?
Yeah. If this is a x equal to a, then you'll be okay. Then this is gonna be okay statement. This is gonna be like, yeah, because it's differentiable at a. Why is it differentiable? Because we know that f prime x equal to 0. It's equal to a value, not equal to undefined. So therefore, it's differentiable. If it's differentiable at a, therefore it has to be continuous at a. And it does not happen to x equal to 0. Now, how do I? Now, what is wrong with D? Fiona, can you tell me what's wrong with D? F of a equal to 0. What's wrong with the f of a equal to D? Brandon?
The given limit is f of x minus f of a, which would be the derivative, whereas D says it's only like
But that's not why it's false. Let me ask. Anybody else besides Nizar?
Because like just like a straight line. Like if you take
D.
f of x equal to 0, just a straight line. If you take the derivative of it, it's like
No, that's if f of x is equal to 0, f of a equal to 0 is different. Let me ask Kaden then.
Is it because if you were to put a x equal to a into the equation, it would get indeterminate?
Nope. Brandon?
because f of a isn't defined.
What f of a is what?
It's not defined.
That's not true either. F of a has to be defined in order to be differentiable. So you just create a bad statement right there.
F of A could be anything. Because it doesn't have to be any number.
So what Nelly said was correct. F of a can be any value. It doesn't have to be 0. Because I hear, do I equal to 0? I hear a, does that equal to 0? No, it's not. It could be a 1. F of a could be 1. F of a does not happen to be 0. F of a is 1. Does this make sense? F of a does not happen to equal to 0. Now, why is a and b false? Gabby, why is a and b false? Why is a false?
I mean, it does exist.
It does exist. Why? Why do you think that exists? You had to know why does it exist. McKenna?
If it didn't exist, then the function wouldn't be valid. Because if it doesn't exist, you must not plug in.
Almost. Yes, Balin.
how could
Okay, Gabby.
It makes the criteria of like the top tier that's differentiable.
It because okay, no, she's not wrong, but she didn't finish explaining it. Because this already told me it's differentiable, so this is true, right? If this true, the bottom part has to be true. So this two has to be true. So they had to be defined. They had to be exist. If they say does not exist, that means it's wrong. It has to be exist because you require two other statement to make it exist.
oh yeah, limit
Does this make sense? It does have to exist because we already said f prime of a is equal to 0. So that's differentiable. If it's differentiable, it had to have the following condition prior to make sense. Because they say f of a has to be defined, f of limit x approaching f of x must exist. So they have to exist over there. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Nizar, does that make sense? Okay, 29. That's a good question. I like this question, by the way. A lot of people cannot explain me the right thing, but there's a lot of things that going on to those questions. Um, let's ask somebody. Ayla. What can you tell me of f double prime of 2? When you have like the greater than sign, which one's greater than what? Usually you figure out are they positive or negative or 0. That's the fastest way to analyze. So what's f double prime of 2?
I just said it's positive since the.
Why? No, why is it positive? Because it has to be positive because it's the greatest one here. Or no, not all the statement, not greatest one. Slope is increasing. I love that. Because this is a, first of all, this thing, I did it wrong second period because I didn't pay attention. This is f prime of x graph. I just say it's concave up, but it's actually not concave up. That would be the wrong answer. So it's the prime and it's increasing. So if prime of x is increasing, that means this is double prime of x is greater than 0. Does this make sense? Because increasing is asking the slope. Slope is positive of f prime, therefore it's double prime. And therefore f double prime is greater than 0. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Now, what happened to f2? f2 is equal to what? No, f2 is not negative. Hana, f2 is what? Why 0? It's at 0. It's crossing x-axis. Oh, f prime 2. Sorry, f prime 2. My bad. Okay, sorry, my bad. So f prime 2 is equal to 0 because crossing x-axis, because this is f prime of x graph. Now, what is f2? Well, we know that only down to one choice, but I want to give me more specific points. F of 2 is less than which value? Not necessarily 0, no. F of 2 is less than what? What? Negative 2 is correct. Here's a reason why. Because at 1, this is going to be negative 2, right? But if you see this region here, f prime of x is less than 0. So that means implying original function has to go downwards. Because f prime of x is below x-axis, so it's f prime of x is less than 0, so it's decreasing. But if it's at negative 2, it's only decreasing all the way to 2, so that means it has to be less than negative 2. So f of 1, f of 2 has to be less than negative 2, not only less than 0. It actually had to be more negative than the negative 2, because it can only be decreasing from 1 to 2 according to the graph. So those are the things that I really understand the question. This is what I'm talking about. You understand one question, you can understand multiple questions if you really understand what I meant. Yes.
Can't you look at area under the curve to determine
You can.
So you know it would be negative under the x-axis.
But I'm still saying, if I want to make the statement more true, is f of 2 is less than negative 2.
Okay.
Because below x-axis, the area in the curve is still negative all the way down. So you can look at it that way too. Okay, 31. Question 31 is good because 31 says let f be a function that everywhere is differentiable. So when you have this question on table, the problem is a table. So and when it asks table as always must be true, there's a lot of fraud to it. I mean, talking about fraud is saying you can find something wrong with it if it's a table. If the function, it's really hard to find something wrong because function is continuous. Table is not continuous. Why? Because just imagine if from negative 10 to negative 5 and the 5 to 10, it looks like it's symmetrical, but it doesn't have to be. It does not have to be because from negative 10 to negative 5 could be increasing in different speed. It can go increase really fast and slow down. Okay, increase really slow and increase really fast later. So it can have all kind of possibility, but they do have one consistency. F prime x is always increasing. So which statement must be true? False. If f prime x always increasing, which statement must be false? B. Because this one's increasing means double prime, right? And it's always increasing, so it has to be greater than 0. So it's concave upwards. So this is upward. That's how do I make statements true. So B is not true. C is not true either because they never talk about double prime. D does not have to pass the origin. That's a dumbest statement because any function doesn't have to require to pass the origin. Not necessary, especially the functions f prime x is equal to 0. That's not origin. That's the slope at 0. So it could be like a parabola at 2. It's an odd function. It's actually more likely to be even function than odd function. However, it's bad too because if you have shifted above the origin, it's already not even or odd, or could be even. But it's negative on the left side and the positive on the right side. Is it possible to be even? But the problem is this. What if you have an odd function like x? If you take a derivative, it's going to be 1. Then that's not true either. So the only answer is A.
Mr. J,
Mm-hmm.
like on the AP exam, do you think you can possibly graph this on like
No.
someone else?
No, because you don't know what happened between -10 to -5. Anything can change between -5 to -10. You can increase as fast as you can in very short time and then slow down later. You can have all kind of possibility. You can't really graph this. I can't even graph this. I can estimate what it look like, but I cannot graph it. What? You can, but again, you can't really graph what's going on because there's a lot of things can happen between -10 to -5. So there's so many things can happen. You can have all kinds of things can happen between -5. Okay, so 32. Guys, if you don't have this, write it down. Write it down. Integration of rate is equal to amount. Integration of meter per second is equal to meter. Same idea. So they just need to use calculator. Do you know how to do it both on the decimal and your graphing calculator? Do you know how to find the thing? If you don't, try it. Try on decimal right now. Make sure everybody know how to use decimals as well, because decimal is going to be one of the things that you have to know how to use. But you do have to type in int, and you cannot use t. You have to use x, and you have to dx. You have to do parenthesis and dx. Those are the things that you guys have to worry about. So you must have this function. That's m of t, and you must have a dt here, or dx. 0 to 3, yeah. So integration of the rate, that's going to give you amount. Does this make sense? I like 33. That's a good question. That's a little bit harder questions. This a lot of people got it wrong, but the answer is D. Now, I can make a third statement true as well. There's two ways to make a third statement true, by the way. So let's understand that. So first of all, let's understand the statement 1. F prime x less than 0 for all x greater than 0. Is that true or false? True, because it starts at 0. The slope is negative, right? It's still negative, but it's negative very close to 0. So it's still decreasing, but it's not going past 0. Because 0 is the horizontal asymptote. So it's not past 0. So 1's true. Second one, is that true? Yeah, the slope is becoming 0. If it goes infinite enough, then slope will become 0 because it keeps on flat. The third statement, how do I make a statement right? There's two ways to do it. Change what to positive? Okay, so first way is to remove the prime. When limit x approaching negative infinity, it's going toward 3. So removing the prime is one way. What will be a second way? Shh. What will be a second way? It's equal to 0 because slope is equal to 0. So that's a one way to figure out the answer for D. There's another way?
Yeah.
How?
Rewrite it.
Rewrite what?
You like that definition? What? I'm the man. I'm the man at the top. Yeah.
Man without phone.
Man doesn't need a phone.
Yes, from the board.
He only needs a phone to play ball. Play Archer.
Huh?
Archer too.
I have a
I
rabbit.
think the limited time.
He's cute.
Yeah, I have a son.
His name is Pikachu.
Is he yellow?
He's yellow. Oh, he's brown actually. He's brown.
I was so shocked when I was like, what?
Okay, so the next question. So this is a great question. So what I would do is, guys, this is a question that you guys need to get it correct because this again analyzing the graph. This is g of x. So if I wanted to find out what's f prime x, I must take two derivatives to get that. So that means g double prime x equal to f prime x. Now this is a long way to do it because I can fundamental theorem calculus. If I take a derivative, that's going to give me a 0. So that part is going to cross it out. So g prime of x equal to f of x and g double prime of x equal to f prime of x. Now, do you see I do a number line test here? This number line test is based on concavities. So if you realize that here, right here is concavity is negative from this point to this point, and this is positive and this is negative. The only one that qualified that is B, and I got to answer without doing too much work. I also do a number line test to kind of show you what happened, but do you guys know how to do that? Now I like 35 though. 35 again is analyzing graph. So when the first acceleration become negative, so that means this is a double prime. You want to look for A of t is the S double prime of t. So that means I'm looking for concave up first becomes concave down. So this is the point because I here's a positive and after that is negative. So first become negative is at C. Is that okay? That should be an easy question. 36. I love this question. Now, I would tell you I love this question is because it happened on FRQ as well. This is the one you had to do table. But the questions can ask, be careful. The question can ask you absolute minimum value. Then it's kind of completely different than what value x, f of x has absolute minimum. So what I would do is I will actually graph this function. And I'll graph 0 to 5. And the absolute value, minimum value is negative 9,219. Right? But you also need to look for integration between 0 to 6.14. Are you done? Okay. So you need to come back to finish the rest of them. Wait, did I give you a scan wrong? I did, right? I issue a 2023 MCQ. Work on your own first and then check your answer tomorrow. No, but I'll look for it.
You know what? That makes you But if I am here on Tuesday, then I'll answer.